everybody, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I come in here once a week, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. to bring you 3 new cards that I've made and show you how I make them. It looks like we're right at the top of the hour, so I am just getting us logged in onto my big screen so I can see what's going on. Bear with me here, and to be able to see your comments as we go. So let's see what I've got going on. I know I started out upside down. Am I still upside down? I think I am. Hang on here. Let's see if that fixed it. I think I am. Hang on here. Okay, there, that fixed it. So it looks like we've got a few people here in the room. So we'll give just a little bit of time here. It looks like I need to put my computer on mute. So hold on just a moment. There we go. One of me is enough to go around, so I don't need to hear myself in stereo. Let's see what's happened this week. Pretty uneventful week around here. I do have a sick puppy. He hasn't eaten in a couple days, and he's still kind of acting happy and stuff like that. He's just not as jumpy as normal, but he's not eating, and then today he hasn't been drinking. So I'm probably going to be taking him to the vet tomorrow. I'm kind of worried that he might have swallowed something, because he's really bad about, if he takes off with something he's not supposed to have, he will swallow it to avoid you getting it from him. So I'm kind of worried that might be the case, but we'll see. It looks like Ramona's here. Hey Ramona, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Funny thing the puppy did on Sunday. On Sundays, I go out to my parents' house and we have a movie day and watch movies in the afternoon. And they have a 2-year-old corgi. And Phineas and Walter, that's the corgi's name, they like to play together. And Walter was up in this recliner, and I was kind of kneeling, standing over it and petting her. Yes, Walter's a her. And I was petting her, and Phineas was standing up in front of the recliner, with his paws up on it, and he was taking his paw and putting it on my hand and pulling my hand away from her so that I couldn't pet her. And the first time he did it, I kind of looked at my dad, and he said, yeah, I saw that too. And so I did it again. I went to pet her, and he pulled my hand away. It was the funniest thing. So I guess we have a little jealousy going on there, or at least what's the word I'm looking for? Ownership. That's my mom, and she's not going to pet you, I guess. So it was kind of funny. So anyway, it looks like Susan's here, and so I got a couple people talking to me. Remember to talk to me, or each other even. That's how you get in the drawing for free goodies. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, so that new people are familiar with how it works. But that's really all the new stuff I have going on right now. I'm an accountant, and the first 2 weeks of every month are always really busy at work as we're doing all the month-end stuff from the month before. So there's not a whole lot of personal life that happens during that time. So I don't have a whole lot to tell you about. But you know what? There's nothing bad really to tell you either. So, except for the sick puppy. So I will take days with not a lot to report. If it means there's not bad stuff to report, I'll take those days with nothing, right? So let's go ahead. We're going to turn the camera around. Want to just fill you in on a couple of quick housekeeping things, and then we'll do our weekly drawing, and then we'll get going on our cards. So hang on while I turn this around. Whoops. Okay, hang on here. My camera's being kind of funky, and so I want to make sure we get it going the right way. Some days it's easier than others though, right? Okay, let's see here. Pull this up a little bit so you have a little bit bigger view. Yes, Ramona, he is fully vaccinated. So that is a good thing. He was supposed to have his little graduation from puppy kindergarten yesterday, and we couldn't take him because he wasn't feeling well, and I just didn't feel like he would be, up to it. I mean, I know I wouldn't if I were him, so we didn't get to go do that. But yeah, at least he's vaccinated, so I'm not worried about one of those kind of weird things. I'm a little more worried about him having eaten something, swallowed something that shouldn't have been in his mouth in the first place, because that's what he does. So, okay. So a couple of reminders of what's going on. Our new mini catalog launched on July 1st. I talked about this last week, but just a reminder to anybody who's new. And it is so full of wonderful goodness, you guys. If you don't have a copy of this yet and you don't have a demonstrator that you work with, I would be happy to send one to you. All you need to do is send me an email at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or you can send me a private message here on Facebook and let me know that you need a catalog with your address, and I would be happy to mail one out. There are all sorts of great holiday sets in here, and not just holiday but wintry. I know that some people prefer for their holiday cards to be more of a winter kind of look, just to kind of accommodate all the beliefs out there. And so it's nice that we have sets that fulfill that. And then of course there's fall stuff, there's Halloween stuff, all sorts of fun things in this catalog, some great designer series papers, some fun new embellishments, of course stamps and die cuts and all sorts of goodness. So again, if you need a copy of this, just let me know. I'd be happy to send one to you. You can also view all the new products on my website at heathersides.stampinup.net. So that's another option as well. Another thing that we have going on right now is Celebration. If you are new to Stampin' Up, let me tell you what Celebration is. This is something to reward all of our wonderful customers and friends who have helped to support our businesses over the years. And so every purchase that you make of $50 or more is going to earn you free gifts. This little brochure that I have right here is loaded with things, with different stamp sets, like stamp sets, dies. Let's see, I'll show you some of the other things. There's some really great stuff in here. Some designer series paper. Let's see what else we have here. I'm not going to show you this one because that one has already sold out. Another stamp set. Let's see. Can't see it really well in the picture, but this is designer series paper with silver and gold in it. We have this fun stamp set with all different sentiments. There's another little die set here that it's called Tree Lot Dies. I've seen this little camper. I have seen some really, really cute things people have made with that camper. Let's see, what else have we got left here? Da, da, da. And then also there's this where you get the stamp set and designer series paper. You do need to make a $100 purchase for that one. And then of course, if you host a party or have your own place your own order of $300 or more, no judgment, then you can also get this perfect pomegranate for free as well. You can get an unlimited number of these free gifts for every $50 that you purchase. So you can stock up on these amazing, amazing gifts from Stampin' Up. You can get those also on my website at heathersides.stampinup.net. Or if you need one of these little brochures, let me know. I'm happy to mail one to you. But again, you can see it on the website as well. So whatever's easier for you. Also, every week I do a drawing just to encourage participation in the conversation that we're having. Everybody who comments, whether you comment during the live video, I see Diane just joined us. Welcome, Diane. Whether you comment during the live video or during one of, when you're watching it on a replay on either YouTube or here on Facebook, if you comment at all, even if it's just a hi Heather, or participate in the conversation while we're live, or you ask questions or anything, as long as you comment, then your name will go into a drawing, and the next week I do the drawing right before I go live, and I award the prize that week. So this week's prize is for participating in last week's conversations, and this week's prize is one of our Stamp and Seal refills. This is a great adhesive. If you have never used it before, it's a great, like I said, it's a great adhesive. It's nice and easy to use. You'll see that Stamp and Seal is my go-to most of the time. And today's prize is going to Eric Cook. He's one of my regulars who's here every week with his wife, Talina. So congratulations, Eric. And I do have your address, so I can pop this in the mail to you right away. I see that Mary just joined us. Welcome, Mary. Glad you could be here. Let's get going on our cards. So this first card that I'm doing, I know you'll be surprised to know I'm using my Layering Circles dies. I use them all the time. Those of you who are here regularly know that. This is a set of dies that is absolutely a must-have. It's so versatile. I use mine all the time, and you get a set of regular circles, and then you get this set. Let me pull one out so you can see it a little better. You get a set that, you can see the little ridges here. So it makes kind of a little bit of a fluted edge. So you can layer them like that, or just use a regular circle, or you just use the one with the fluted edge. Like I said, great versatile set. And then the stamps that we're going to use tonight are Uniquely Artistic and Lovely and Lasting. Both of these are new in this year's annual catalog, and I've been having a lot of fun with this Lovely and Lasting. When I first got it, I wasn't entirely sure how much I would use it, but I liked all the different sentiments, and I liked that you can get a bundle, that you get the stamp set and a punch that fits this little tag perfectly. So I went ahead and got it, and I've used it a ton. I absolutely love it. So let's get going on making the card. I'll show you the card we're going to make. It's very simple, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Used a little bit of our heat embossing, and it's just a nice plain white card. Let's get going. You're welcome, Eric. Okay, so let's pull out our supplies. Let's go ahead and do the envelope first. And all I did for this is I took a piece of just copy paper. I have my scratch paper. I put it under the lip or the flap of the envelope. And then let's get out the ink. I used my Pool Party ink for this. Wow, that really slid fast. And then I also used this stamp from the set. And I'm just going to stamp all over in several different directions. My ink pad is a little bit too juicy right now, I think. I mean, that's okay. It just doesn't give quite as crisp of an image when your ink pad is a little too juicy. Now that's all I'm going to do with that. So let's go ahead and clean off the stamp. The one thing I like about cards like this one is they are so quick and simple. And the nice thing is, if you wanted to make a set of them to maybe give somebody as a gift, you can whip them out in no time. Okay, so now I'll set my envelope aside, as well as my scratch paper. I have a piece of basic white that it's just a half of a sheet, 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Thank you, Susan. Susan says it's pretty. I'm glad you like it. Now I'm going to take my bone folder and just give myself a nice sharp crease. Sometimes what I like to do is do tone on tone. So I've got my white cardstock on white cardstock, but then I lift it a little bit with dimensionals, and it just gives it, dimension. But it's subtle because they're the same color. I like to do this a lot, and we're going to go ahead and mount that on there right now. Let's see. When I'm cutting a big piece like this, I do prefer to use bigger scissors. I just find that it cuts it a little bit easier. And we'll just put this right on there like that. Okay. And I'll pull off the release tape. Remember to make sure that you know what I need to do? I noticed that sometimes when you cut, you get this little bit of a lip edge on the cut lines. And so an easy way to flatten that back out, which I should have done before I put my adhesive on, but I didn't. So what I do is I set it on my silicone mat and do it because the adhesive won't stick to the silicone mat. And then I can take my bone folder and just go over those edges, and it flattens down that little edge that sticks up. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and mount this onto the card. Make sure you've got it where you want it, because remember, the foam adhesive, while it is a wonderful, wonderful tool for stamping, and I love my foam adhesive, you've seen me use it a lot, it's unforgiving. So once you lay it down, it's kind of tough to get it back up again. So be careful about that. Now I'm going to set this aside. Actually, let's stamp the inside. So I'm going to take my Pool Party ink again, and I'm going to use the same stamp, and I'm just doing a little bit of a image here in the corner, and then I'm going to stamp it again before or without re-inking. That's called stamping off, and you get a little bit lighter, well, this case it's a lot bit lighter image. I want another light image like that, so I'm going to stamp off on my scratch paper over here and do it again. So now you can see I've got the dark one with just a little bit of shadow of those light ones, and I really like that look. It's nice and subtle, especially on the inside where you know, you really want the focus on the inside to be the sentiment or the message that you write or something like that, not just the stamped image. You want the stamped image to be something that enhances it but doesn't take over. Okay, so now let's go ahead and set that aside. Got our 3 pieces here that I have cut. I have our, oh goodness, let's see if I can remember what everything is called again. New names, and I always want to call them by old names. Tahitian Tide. Then I've got Balmy Blue, and I have Pool Party right there. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to lay them upside down, and I'm going to line them up. Well, I'll line them up for a minute. And I'm taking a little bit of my tear and tape just because I have it and it's easy. And so I'm going to line these up to make sure they're even. And I'm going to just put a little bit of tear and tape on there to hold the pieces together. Find my edge here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other piece. Gonna line it up, tape it together. Whoops. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, again, my stamp, but this time I'm going to use, oh, I must have put my Versamark ink away. Hang on just a second. You know what? I didn't use Versamark ink. I just realized this is why the white ink was out on my desk today. I thought, why is my white ink out? It's because I need to use it today. Okay, so this is just our white craft ink. However, do they still call it white? Whisper White. If you don't have this, you can use your Versamark ink. It works just as well. And I'm just going to ink up my stamp here. I'm going to stamp it on this image, kind of like that. There we go. Close up my ink pad. I'm going to take my scrap paper that I used a minute ago for the envelope. Okay. And I'm going to pour a little bit of our white embossing powder on here. And we have 2 different packs of embossing powder. One comes with white, black, and clear embossing powder. And then one comes with metallics, comes with silver, gold, and bronze. Now, what I do after this is I'm going to take a little paintbrush, find my little paintbrush. It's nothing fancy. I bought a set of paintbrushes at the dollar store. That's all it is. And it's just so that I can get in those little tiny spaces and brush the extra embossing powder that seems to have stuck to my cardstock. And I can just brush it off. Let's see here. Make sure I don't have shaky hands for these ones that are super close. Okay. Now set that over there while I put my embossing powder away. And put the lid on your embossing powder before you turn on your heat tool. And oh, thank you for sharing, Marcy, and welcome. Okay, so make sure that you do put the lid on first, because when the heat tool starts to blow a little bit, you can end up with embossing powder everywhere, and that's just a mess you don't want to deal with. Ask me how I know. Okay, so now it's going to get loud for just a minute while I heat this. So let's go ahead and what this does is it melts that powder to give it a real shiny image. I see Yvette just joined us. Welcome, Yvette. If you have not done heat embossing before, what you're watching for is you can see that it goes from looking kind of grainy and dull to smoother, and it's kind of shiny. Especially if you're doing, like in this, where it's a lot more detailed, you don't see it quite as well. But if it's a solid image, boy, you really see that change as it happens. Okay, so looks like that's all done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another piece of my foam adhesive strip here. Let's see, and make it about that wide, I think. And I'm just going to trim it down a little bit. Now I have a bag where I put all these little scraps so that I use them up whenever I need a little bit, just like a little piece. Now you can see why I like these pieces, because it's quick and easy and I don't have to pull off the backs of 1,000 dimensionals. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead. I almost mounted this onto the onto my demo card. Okay, so now I'm going to mount this right in the middle. Make sure it's straight before I lay it down, because once you lay it down, it's there for life. Clean off my stamp. I am using this Simply Chamois to clean my stamp. If you have not seen this before, see how dirty and gross mine looks? The cool thing is that, I mean, it's not cool that it's dirty and gross looking. Hey, Cheryl, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Shelly, welcome. But the cool thing is even though it looks like it's got all this ink and couldn't possibly clean your stamps, it really does. So even though it stains with the ink, it doesn't transfer, you know, it's not staying on the surface and making it so that your stamps get all that dirty grossness on them. And then I usually, before I go live every week, re-wet it. And that's about all there is to that. It works really well that way. Okay, so now I have this little tiny circle. And I'm going to go ahead and find the sentiment I wanted to use. The sentiment I have here actually says, oh, hello, but I just want the hello. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, take my Pool Party ink, and I'm just going to ink up the part that says hello. If you're nervous about getting it elsewhere on the stamp, you can always put a little piece of Scotch tape over the part you don't want inked. Just remember to take that off before you stamp the image. That's probably the most important step. I'm just going to stamp it right here in the middle of my circle. There we go. Clean off my stamp. Well, that's a good sign. My son just got home and the dog got up to go check him out and see how he's doing. So the fact that he got up for that is a good sign. Okay, now close my ink pad. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take just a little bit of adhesive here. I think I'll even use my liquid just because, well, because it's here and I can. Oh, the dog's even bringing me a toy. Another good sign. Okay, so now I'm just putting it here, right here on the corner. As you can see. And I'm going to take out a little bit of our white glitter ribbon. I think that's what it's called. Let me check. It is called glittered organdy ribbon. And you can see it's just got iridescent little sparkles in it. I love it. It's really pretty. I'm going to tie a little bow. Now I'm going to just kind of fiddle with my bow to get it the way I want it. You know, sometimes that's the most challenging part, is the fiddling with it and getting it the way you want it, right? Open, open, open. Anybody remember that Mervyn's commercial that was on like 100 years ago when Mervyn's started kind of gaining in popularity in like the early 90s, and the lady stood outside the store going, open, open, open. Just me, or does anybody else remember that? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and trim my tails here. And let's see, I'm going to use some glue dots to put that on. And all I do is I set my bow right there on one of the dots, push it down to get the dot stuck really nicely to my bow. Then I'm going to pull it off, and I'm just putting it right here on the corner. And there we go. There's our card. Quick and simple, right? So let's go ahead and put that one aside, do a little bit of cleaning up here, and then we'll get going on card number 2. Okay, so for card number 2, we're going to be using the Forever Fern bundle. It's, and actually, to be honest, I don't know if it's sold as a bundle anymore, but you can purchase the stamps, Forever Fern, and the Forever Flourishing dies that go with it. And some of the dies are just greenery that you can use in the background, and some of them cut out the stamped images. So you get a little bit of both with that. And then we're also going to use the Quatrefoil Tile embossing folder. So let me set these aside and we'll get going on those. Okay, so this is the card we're going to make. We're going to decorate the envelope the same way we did the last one. We're just going to stamp the flap, and ironically, we're using the same color. You know, sometimes I do that. I get my brain going in a color mindset, I guess. Okay, so this is the card we're going to make. Here's the inside. And I left a sentiment off of that because then you can put whatever sentiment you want on the inside, or just a written message. Thank you, Nell. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, so Cheryl and Susan both remember. Oh, and Marcy also remember. So I'm getting lots of people. I'm not just remembering that commercial randomly. I remember really random things, you guys. Okay, so again, a basic card base, which is half of a sheet of cardstock. You know the measurements, 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So let's go ahead and fold it and crease our edges. Where, there it is. Okay, so I just noticed my arms on the camera, and I have to tell you guys, I had someone ask me last week what on earth happened to my arms. So I have to tell you, just so you don't think I've got some weird flesh-eating disease or something. I have a puppy who's still in the bitey stage with very sharp teeth. He also has very sharp little claws that need to get trimmed. So he needs an appointment at the little pet spa to get a pedicure. And then on top of it, I itch all the time. I just am itchy. And so I forget that I have these, battle scars from my dog. And then I scratch and reopen them, or he jumps on me and plays with me and reopens them. So that's what that is from. Okay, so we've got our envelope. Let's go ahead and decorate our envelope first. And again, we're using Pool Party. And for this part, I think I'm just going to use this stamp right here. And again, just stamp in all different directions. I don't typically have any real particular plan for how I stamp that out. I just want it to cover it, and I don't want big gaping open spaces. So Mary says this is one of her favorite sets. You know what, Mary? It's one of mine too. I don't use it often enough, but I really, really like it. I've seen so many pretty cards with it. I've made a lot of cards with it that I have really enjoyed. That I think it's one of those sets that just doesn't get noticed a lot, but it is, I think, beautiful. Okay, so let's set the envelope off to the side here. Now what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and do the inside of our card. What I've done is I ran my Pool Party cardstock. I have a little strip of it, and then I have this bigger layer of it that I ran through the quatrefoil, I can't say that fast, quatrefoil tile embossing folder, and I'm trying to hold it up to the camera. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, it looks like you can see it pretty well. It's a really pretty design. I kind of thought it was going to be too busy, so I've sort of held off using it because I was a little bit afraid of it, not quite sure what to do with it. This is the first time I've used it, and I actually think it, for as busy as it is, it gives a pretty subtle image. I like it a lot. Okay, so now I have a couple pieces of basic white cardstock here. This is the one for the inside. I'm just going to glue this little strip on there. Okay. And I'm leaving just a little bit of a white line space beneath my strip here. And of course I have glue all over my fingers already. Would you be crafting if you didn't end up with glue all over your fingers? I mean, that's the real question, right? So now I'm going to trim off the extra. And let's go ahead and stick this down to the inside of our card. Okay. That looks straight. So there's the inside of our card. Now let's do the front. Before we get going too much on this, I have this is just a scrap of basic white. We're going to stamp a couple of things. First, I've got this image, this set of leaves, and then I have the set of leaves that we used on the envelope as well. And I'm going to do two of these guys. I'm going to do one of this one. Whoops, it left a little mark there, but it doesn't matter because we're going to die cut these and it's going to cut that out anyway. Oops, trying to clean off my stamps here. Okay, and then I'm going to use a little bit of Melon Mambo just to give a little pop of color. And we're going to stamp these little things. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're berries or if they're supposed to be leaves, but this is my card and I get to make them whatever I think they are. I can't even say what I think they are because I don't know, but I liked the pop of color, so we're going with it. There we go. Clean off that stamp. I'll give you a little tip that I heard the other day. Yes, inky fingers and gluey fingers, Marcia, absolutely. A little tip I got the other day. If you have a tendency to get ink around the edge of your stamp here, you know, where you don't want it because then you end up accidentally getting it on your card, like I got that extra piece right here, chances are you're pushing too hard on your ink pad. Our ink pads are designed so that you should be able to lightly tap them to get the ink on your stamp. So if it's getting on the edges, you're doing it too hard. And I didn't realize that's what was going on. Okay, so I do have this piece that I did already cut out. I already die cut that, but we're going to die cut these other pieces together really quick. So let me get my die cut machine. I'm grabbing the big one just because it's right here and I can. So I'm going to set it right here and let's put a couple dies on here. Let's see. Got this one. Guess it helps if you put it with the cutting side down, doesn't it? Okay. Does that look right? Okay, and then I've got this one as well, so we'll lay that one down. Oops. My finger with its glue on it then sticks to the die cut, and when I lift my finger it moves the die. Okay, and then we got these little guys that I don't know what they are. I'm going to call them berries. I don't know if they are, but that's what I'm going to call them. In my mind, they're berries. Okay, there we go. Let's run this through once. Sorry for the shaking. Okay, bring this around. Move these pieces out of the way. We're going to run through one more time to get those extra pieces. Okay, let's see here. This one's going to go right here. And this one, oops. And this one's going to go right here. Now we'll feed it through. Again, I apologize for the shaking. The shaking is so that you can experience the die cutting as well, right? Okay. Now let's just clean this up a little bit. Put my dies back on the magnet sheet so I don't lose them. Move my machine out of the way. Okay, so now let's get going here. Hey, Crystal, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this green piece that I had run through the embossing folder, and we're going to go ahead and glue that down. Whoops. Get a little bit more on the edge there. Okay. And I'm just going to center it on my card. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I have a little rectangle of vellum. You know, there's several different weights of vellum that you can buy. The one that we sell, I actually am very partial toward, and not just because it's a Stampin' Up! Product, but it is a little thicker than other vellums that I've purchased through other companies before. You can see when I hold it, well, I don't know how well you can see it, but it hardly flops over one direction or the other. So it's got a little bit more of a cardstock weight to it, and I particularly really like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on here, just like this. You want to be careful with adhesive and vellum because adhesive always shows through, but we're going to be covering it up with our flowers and or leaves and berries and stuff. So in this case, it's not that big of a deal. So, okay, now we have that. And then what I did is I just kind of played with mine and laid everything down till I figured out how I wanted it. Well, because I've already done that, I know how I want it, so I'm not going to do that now. But when you are designing your own, that is what I find most helpful. Lay everything down, figure out kind of how you want it, and then piece it back together from there. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue on here. And I'm just putting little dots on some of the leaves. I don't put it on all of the leaves because I do like it when it sticks up a little bit because it's not glued down. It just gives the card a little bit more texture, I think. So, oops, I do want to put a little bit on that leaf at least, or that branch. There we go. And just going to lay that down just like so. Then, let's see, then I will lay down these pieces if I can pick them up, these guys. So let's see, what did I do here? Put a little bit of glue on the bottom there, and I'm just gonna kind of put them up like this. Do the other one. And then I got this one that I'm going to kind of just put in the middle there. And I think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to trim this down a little bit because I do want it down. I don't want it quite so tall, and I want to stick it down in there kind of like that. Or maybe even trim it down a little bit more. Don't be afraid to cut them down either. I think sometimes we see the image at hand and we forget that we can alter it. We don't have to keep it the way it is. Okay, so just stick it in there. Now, another part of the reason that I am only putting glue at the bottom and not at the top as well is because then it allows me to slide the pieces under other pieces as well. So, let's see here. There we go. And then let's put those little berry guys in there. And then I'm going to show you one other trick to give it just a little bit more dimension. Where do I want this guy? Put him right there. Okay, now I'm going to take mini dimensionals, and I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. Stamper's best friend. If you don't have a Take Your Pick tool, you need a Take Your Pick tool. And I'm just putting it under the ends of some of these pieces so that they will pop up just a little bit. Because, you know, even though they aren't glued down and they stick up a little bit, when you put them in an envelope, they're going to get flattened down a little. So if you put a dimensional on there, that helps keep it popped up a little bit. Just like that. And then let's put a couple on these ones too. If I can get the back off. Okay. There we go. Put that one right there. There. So it's just, they're just popped up a little bit on the ends. You know, I wonder if I lift this one up, maybe put a little bit under this one. That might look kind of cool too. So let's see if it's too late to lift it. I don't think it is. It's only a tiny bit of glue. That's easy to undo. Okay, so let's put, ooh, that might be a little big, huh? If it's too big, we'll cut it down. There. That's not bad. There. And to finish it off, let's see, we'll put our dimensionals away. Going to tie another bow, and this is our pool party pool party organdy ribbon. Hey Tracy, welcome. Okay, now I'm going to fiddle with the bow, get it the way I want it. Tracy, I've been watching your Facebook page and all the fun stuff you've been making lately. I loved the pants that you made. I assume that was your husband in the picture. I really liked those little pants that you made him. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and trim the tails on this one. I think I want them to be a little bit longer this time. So I'll leave them long, see how I like it, and trim them again if I need to. So I've got my glue dot here. Press my ribbon down onto the glue dot. And I'm going to put it right over this little mess where all the pieces came together. And now you never have to know that that little mess existed. And there's card number 2. Ta-da! So there you go, card number 2. Let's put this away. We'll get going on the last one. Okay. And our last card tonight, I am using our seasonal labels dies. We're actually getting into the time of year where you're going to see me using both sides of these dies. And when I say both sides, it's because it comes with 2 sets of dies. You get ones that are all these different leaves, and there's pine cones, and there's holly and holly berries, and just all sorts of stuff like that. But then there's also these great frames that I've used year round. And then we're also going to use the Artistic Mix masks. I've started playing with my masks more, and I'm really having fun with them. And then we're also going to use the Good Feelings stamp set. I really like this because I like nice big sentiments like this, because you can make a nice and quick and easy card with some fun decor and slap a big sentiment on there. It looks great, and you haven't had to spend a whole lot of time doing it. Thank you, Marcia. She says another cool card. Thank you. Okay, so let's get going on this card. I'll show you what we're going to make here. Again, I stamped the envelope, but we're going to do it with the mask this time. And here's the card that I made. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to color our ribbon. And the reason I like to do that first is it just gives the ribbon a little time to dry. I'm using our Stamp and Blend. This is the dark Flirty Flamingo, and I'm using a Stamp and Blend, so they do dry pretty quickly actually because they're alcohol based. But I do still like to do them right off the bat and then set them aside, let them dry, make sure they're dry by the time I need them. So again, I'm using our white crinkle ribbon. Another nice thing about this ribbon, if you've been watching the last few videos I've done, I commented that this ribbon didn't really call to me in the beginning because the crinkle to me looks like it needs to be ironed, and I get it. I understand that's the point of it. But it was just a little bit much for my OCD brain. But I've started playing with it, and I am finding I really like it. It's a nice lightweight ribbon. But the other thing I found that I like about it, that I didn't know before doing this card, is because it's so thin, it bleeds through the other side when you color it with the marker. It bleeds through so easily that you don't even have to color both sides. It just one pass through and it's fully colored and it looks great. So I'm going to set that aside. Let's get going on our envelope first. Oops, got all these little pieces flying around. Again, I'm going to take my scratch paper and fold the flap of the envelope over. Then what I'm going to do is take my masks. It's this one right here. I'm going to lay it on here. Now what I like to do is I do like to tape it down. I'm actually going to tape down my scratch paper too, because then I know my envelope isn't going to move. Then I'm going to take some tape here. I'm going to line up my envelope. And if you use grid paper like I am using, you can line it up with the lines on the grid paper, and then you know you're doing a straight line. If that kind of thing is important to you, which it kind of is to me, because I'll sit there and stare at it forever afterward, trying to determine if it's crooked, if it's even just a fraction off. So for my own emotional health, I have to tape everything down. Okay, so the color palette I'm going to use for this is right here. It's Flirty Flamingo, Calypso Coral, Mango Melody, and Daffodil Delight. So let's start with the Daffodil Delight. And I've got a couple of our blending brushes here. Get a little color on here. Now, normally I say, get the extra ink off of your brush before you start brushing onto your project, because you'll get kind of a dump of ink, essentially. For example, let me show you. If I just start going like this, I guess you can't see it quite as well, but can you see how it's a little darker right in that spot where I started? There, you got it right there. And you don't want that typically on your projects. But with this, I don't care. The fact that I want kind of different saturations of color all over the place, make it so that doesn't really matter. Okay, now let's see. Yeah, that might be enough of the Daffodil Delight. So now I'm going to close that up. Give me just a second. I'm going to close my office door. My husband just got home and he doesn't want to have to hear me more than he already has to hear me. So, so I shut the door so he doesn't have to listen. Okay, so then I'm just using the same brush, maybe get a little of the extra off on my scratch paper. Now I'm going to use the Mango Melody. Get some ink on there. And you can see I'm just kind of putting the color wherever. It's not any particular pattern that I'm doing. There. And I'm doing this with all 4 of the colors that I just showed you. So I'm just kind of going all over the place. I have another brush that I use for my pinks. So let's use the Calypso Coral next. Now I'm trying to decide what I think will be darker, because you want to use your lighter colors first. So let's see, let's do Calypso Coral. Maybe a little bit there, and some there. A little bit there. And then we're going to finish it off with the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just going to get all the little white spots that are left on my envelope. And of course, some of these colors are overlapping one another. That's fine, because then what happens is it makes them so they blend together. So when we're all done, let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to lift this up, but I'm going to leave it because we still have other parts I want to do that. But see how you've got the colors kind of everywhere, but one color blends into the next. So that's how I got that. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way. Next, we're going to take a piece of basic white right here. And it's a little bigger than what I need because we're going to trim it down. This has one of those little lips that I was talking about from the cutting edge of my blade. So I just want to push it down a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of this to hold it in place. Again, it's on the back, so it doesn't matter because it's not going to show. Okay, so line this up here and fold this down. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start with my yellows. Just get a little bit everywhere. Okay. Put that away. Now we're going to do the mango melody. Thanks, Ramona. Okay, put that one away. And you can see this actually, I mean, it goes pretty quick because you're not having to be really precise about how you do it. So I'm going to put in a little bit of our Calypso Coral everywhere. Okay. And finally, our Flirty Flamingo to fill in all the other white spaces. And let me show you how I clean off my masks when I'm done with them. So I'm just pulling that up. See, and there's our piece that we just stamped. It's stuck to my paper, my scrap paper, but it doesn't matter because, again, none of that's going to show. So here's how I clean it. I take my little, well, I have my, Simply Chamois in a little case here. You may not, you may or you may not, you don't need it for this. But I set it there. And then I have a piece of tape stuck to my finger. So I'm trying to get that taken care of. Okay, so now I just take my Simply Chamois and I just go over it. I lay it down and go over it, just like this. Just a quick wipe down. There you go, and it's done. And I can put it back in the little case or the little envelope with the others, and it's ready for the next time I want to play with it. Okay, so let's get going here. Now, as I said, this piece is a little bigger than what we need, right? So let me grab my trimmer. And what I'm going to do is I want this to be, for the front of my card, I want it to be 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So I'm going to trim this down a little bit. Oops. It's easier to cut if you use the cutting blade. Let's see here. I kind of think that's the end I want to cut. Okay, so now I've trimmed that down, right? I've got this little piece. Now, my mask didn't go all the way to the edge of my paper, so I just want to trim that little bit down. You don't have to. Again, that's just one of those weird little Heatherisms that I have to do because it'll bother me if I don't. Okay, set my trimmer aside. And now, here we have our card base. Just a half a sheet, 8.5 by 5.5. Scored in the middle at 4 1/4. You know the drill. And then I have my piece of basic white cardstock for the inside of my card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little strip that we cut off the side and I'm going to glue it on there. Okay. And I'm just going to stick it on there. Just like that. And there we go. Cut off the edges. That one's not totally straight there. Let's fix that. Okay, good enough for government work, right? Okay, I have to laugh. I just noticed my neighbors are in their backyard and they're probably sitting here hearing me talk to all of you with no clue what I'm doing. So they probably think I'm standing here talking to myself, which, you know, is not out of the realm of possibility, to tell you the truth. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this to the inside of our card. There we go. And now we'll do the front. We got the bulk of the work done already because we have this piece that we are now going to glue to the front of our card. It looks like it missed a little spot right there. That kind of bothers me. So we're going to trim that off. So let's see here. Just trim off a tiny little bit here. Okay, I feel better. Don't you all feel better? And I'm going to cut off that little, or I mean, I'm going to press down that little edge that sticks up. So now I'm going to mount it onto my Flirty Flamingo designer or cardstock. I didn't use any designer series paper today. I just realized that. Okay, so let's get this mounted on here. And now I'm going to take our ribbon, wrap it around and tie a bow. Make sure it's laying flat in the back there. There we go. Now tie my bow. Oops, it's twisting on me and I don't. You want to try to keep it as straight as you can because it does help with tying the bow. There we go. I probably should have allowed myself just a little more ribbon. As I've mentioned in the past, it's easier to tie a good bow when you have extra ribbon. Come on, Heather, you can do this. Okay, now fix my little bow here. There we go. Now I'll trim the tail. Okay. And I don't like how loose this is. So you've seen me do this little trick before, where if I want it a little tighter, I just cut it there. And then I take my, oh, there it is, my tear and tape. And I just tape it back down. I'm going to figure out about where I want my bow to be. You know, what I did when I did the front one, or my first one, I set this where I wanted it to get an idea of where I wanted my bow. There we go. Since this is kind of a bigger piece, what you can do here is then take a little glue dot. Oops, got it where I want it, right? I'm going to put that glue dot right on the back of my bow. I said put it on the back of the bow. There we go. And of course now everything's moving again, but that's okay. Get it where I want it. I have a few sticky things on my fingers now that make this a little interesting. There, and I just stick it down. That way I know the bow is where I need it to be when I go to put all the other pieces on. Now I'm going to go ahead and tape this down so it's nice and tight. There, just stuck it on there. See, and now it's all nice and tight and it's right where I want it to be so I can do the other pieces. So I have a piece of basic white here, and I'm going to grab my Mango Melody, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And for the sentiment, I am using You're on my mind and in my heart. And what I like about this particular sentiment is it could be a get well card. It could be a congratulations card. It could just be a hello card. It could be a sympathy card. Any of those. I mean, you can use this sentiment for any of those things, really. Okay, so now I'm going to line this up. Ooh, that's not, it's kind of not centered, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll survive, right? And I just realized something that I forgot to do on the first card. So don't let me forget to go back and fix the first card. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount this on here. I'm kind of debating whether or not to trim this down because I don't like how that is off center like that. I think I am going to go ahead and trim it down. These things keep me up at night, folks. I love it. Perfectionism, Tracy, you're right. It's tough being perfect. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to be cutting off about 1/4 of an inch here. Oh, that's so much better. My heart just feels better there. So let's cut off 1/4 inch here. Okay. Now, I'm going to mount this piece onto the Flirty Flamingo piece. There we go. And now we're going to put it onto this piece, but I'm going to use some foam adhesive. See about how big of a piece I want here. And we're going to center this on this big old tag we've got right here. That looks about right. And then we're going to stick this down on our card. I'm going to scoot this down just a teensy-weensy bit. There we go. There. Okay. Now let's go ahead and put this on our card. And it looks like I used foam adhesive for that too. So let's cut this baby up. See how it just kind of doesn't cut as easily when I'm using the little scissors? That's why I like to use the bigger scissors when I've got a bigger piece like that. Okay. And we're going to put this right on the front of the card. Putting it right side up is always a good plan. There. And that is card number 3 with its matching envelope. So let's clean up our mess here, and we'll just take a quick recap of all the wonderful cards we made tonight. While I'm putting stuff away, be thinking about which one is your favorite. I like to hear what you guys think of the different cards and which ones you like the best. Okay, move some stuff. Okay, move this guy out of the way. All right, so our 3 cards we made tonight. We've got this one, You're on My Mind and in My Heart. I've got this beautiful one that, I feel a little glue there, residual from my stuff I glued down, I think. That's easy to take care of. I will just take my little glue eraser and get that off, not a problem. So we've got this card with the Forever Fern set, and then this one with our uniquely artistic stamp set. And there we go, our 3 cards for tonight. Which ones did you guys like? What did you like the best? While you're thinking about that and voting, I just want to remind you that I really appreciate you guys joining me every week. I've mentioned this before. It's my favorite part of the week. I love stamping and I love sharing it with you. And I love that you join me to do it. If you are interested in purchasing any of the items I used or taking advantage of that celebration special that I told you about, I would love to earn your business. And you can shop at my online store at heathersides.stampinup.net. If you place an order under $150, I would love it if you'd use that host code. That host code helps me to be able to continue to bring you these videos for free, as well as prizes and gifts and things like that. If your order is over $150, please don't use the host code. You'll have some rewards coming to you for your purchase, and I want to make sure that you are the one who gets them. If you enjoyed what we did tonight, if you could give me some thumbs up, some likes. If you're on YouTube, if you do a thumbs up, but you can also subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to increase my viewership on YouTube, and so I love it when new people subscribe. You can click on the little bell icon. It tells you when when I upload new videos, which I do every week. Those are all the things that help me grow my business, and I really appreciate it. Most of all, if you share my video, put it out there on your Facebook page, it attracts new people that may not have heard of me otherwise, and boy, I really appreciate that. So thank you all for joining me. Let's see, the votes are coming in. Tracy voted for the You're on My Mind and In My Heart. Susan can't decide which one she likes the best. So I'm glad that you liked them all. So thank you guys again for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday. Bye.